going to be Cynthia Lummis, U.S. Senate, and Tim Scott, U.S. Senate. They are doing a conversation on For the Love of Country and Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say.
Coin from my daughter and my now son-in-law, and it made absolutely no sense to me. The idea of funny internet money.
There you go. Magic internet money.
I got to go speak at the
That's a Hillary
Satoshi
quote.
Roundtable. And I was not there to speak about Bitcoin, thank goodness, because I really didn't know that much about it in 2017. But it was a year when there was a fascinating discussion at the Satoshi Roundtable. So I sort of
Next is going to be Edward Snowden
learned
as
a
a
lot
keynote
about
speech.
Bitcoin, and then when I came back to the U.S. Senate, had an area of exposure to a subject that nobody else in the Senate really knew anything about.
They just said
So
she
it
has
sort
a
of
big
gave me a
announcement to
leg
make, so I'm
up.
kind of curious what she might have.
Educating people about Bitcoin from the U.S. Senate to your hometown is a big challenge for all of us, especially now that we're crying for clear regulatory policies, which I want to get to. But how did you get here?
Well, thank God for your leadership in the Senate on Bitcoin. I will say without any question, I got here. Let's give her a round of applause. I mean, literally.
All right.
When you're the only senator out of 100 with a clue, you have an immense responsibility, and you took it on your shoulders, and you brought a team together, including me. I actually became a huge fan because I grew up in a single-parent household mired in poverty. And I always wondered, how do we get opportunity back to the poorest Americans, to marginalized communities? And I got to say, without any question, having people who believe in your future is significant. And the concept of democratization brought me to the conversation. The ability, I wanted to be a preacher at one time. I'm going to move around a little bit, so forgive me for moving some. But the ability to bring resources and opportunities and access to the marketplace to the people who need it most, that's what Bitcoin is about. Yeah. That's what this is about, giving the average American a chance to make their own decisions at home. No matter where you live, if you're on the mountaintop or with me in the valleys low, having a chance to democratize our financial footprint is an absolutely essential part of achieving the American dream. And whatever we can do, wherever we can do it, let's get it done. Let's get it done right now.
Great. So
now she's going to stand too.
Now you've got me standing.
Yeah.
Which I guess it would have been kind of awkward if she didn't, but whatever.
Common sense. And you've been leading us on this really important conversation, but the real challenge that we've seen in Congress, there are serious people in the way of making sure that American innovation is leading the globe in innovation. And we have to get rid of the folks who are in the way.
Yeah, and the folks that are in the way, in large part, are on the Senate Banking Committee.
Yes.
And here's the good news. Republicans are going to be in the majority next year, and Senator Tim Scott is going to be the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee.
It's not that I'm not saying I don't like that they're Republican. I don't like the Bitcoin 2024 conference to be slanted as a Republican conference, because it's not. It's a Bitcoin conference.
As the chairman of the Banking Committee, the one thing I will absolutely guarantee will be done is watching your legislation get a vote, pass the Banking Committee, and we're going to fight to make it a law in the United States of America, setting Bitcoin free here at home. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty.
All right, dude.
Free at last.
Well, the nexus between Senator Tim Scott's core values and his appreciation for Bitcoin is that it's freedom money. It gives individuals their sovereignty.
Yes.
From the poorest person to Michael Saylor.
100%. Well, Cynthia, Michael Saylor ain't the poorest person. You can say amen to that. But here's what I can tell you, though. we need to make sure on our committee, the banking committee, that we create the kind of rules of the road that are very wide. We need a wide pathway for Bitcoin to be successful here at home. And we need to make sure that things like taxation and regulation does not stifle innovation, is what you taught me.
Absolutely.
So we got to bring the hurdles down so that anywhere in America, the poorest persons do not have to climb a mountain to step over something.
Yeah.
Let's make it easy. And one of the challenges that we see is the SEC with Chairman Gensler.
There we go.
Lord have mercy.
Let's sling some mud. Boo.
I'm glad that we have the same affection for the same people. This is good. This is good. We have to hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yes.
So the problem we're having.
Yeah, explain what I just said.
You have not been in the majority to govern what comes out of the banking committee. And the banking committee has jurisdiction over the Securities Exchange Commission.
Yes.
So we've been unable to move the needle. They're trying to hoard the definition of what is a commodity versus what is a security, and they're regulating by enforcement action, not by clear rules. We're going to make the rules.
Yes.
That's so frustrating.
Yes. And the good news, Cynthia, one of the things we're going to have to do as we make the rules of the road, a light touch is so important. The one thing you don't want to do in the youth of this industry is to be oppressive. We don't need a large paternalistic hand saying to people who grew up like I did, poor little people, you're too dumb to make your own financial decisions.
Yeah.
That to me is condescending.
Absolutely.
It is paternalistic, and it is dead wrong.
Yep.
We need to make sure that the rules that we create gives a great pathway for individuals to make their decisions. I believe that you can make your best decisions about your financial future. And we need to make sure that the regulatory environment under the next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
I'm sure the people that invested in like Celsius thought the same thing.
A regulatory
and now they probably want the government to help them get their money back.
Liberty and freedom are inseparable. And money is a necessary component to experience that freedom. So we want people, whether it's they love their dollars or they love their digital assets, we want them in charge of making their decisions.
Absolutely.
And to the extent that
Edward
we do
Snowden
that,
is
we
coming out
set
next, right after these guys.
people free to be autonomous, making your decisions. That's what makes this thing so exciting, because we're so close to the finish line.
So what's so great, as you can see, about Senator Tim Scott becoming the chairman of the banking committee is he believes in we the people, that we created the federal government, not vice versa, and that the people should be telling us what to do. So we've been meeting while we've been in town here in Nashville with various
She's supposed to have some big announcement
who are helping us understand how to right-size statutes and how to right-size regulations. One of the problems right now is that we don't have a clear regulatory framework in statute that can govern what is a commodity, what is a security, and what kind of rules need to be complied with in order to protect consumers but not stifle growth. That's the sweet spot we're looking for. We don't want to stifle growth, but we want to make sure that where appropriate, consumer disclosure is made available. And frequently that is the cut between securities and commodities.
100%. Well, that kind of disclosure is just called transparency. And frankly, what was done so well here is creating an environment where people have great confidence because you have a public ledger on the blockchain. So here's what we know without any question, is that the process itself has been designed around safety and security.
Yes.
Let's just not get in the way of what's working.
Exactly right. So the innovations of Bitcoin are now becoming more clear in the U.S. Senate, and it's also becoming more clear who wants to protect the innovation and who wants to regulate it.
No.
And what we're seeing in this administration is
make
that
this
people
political.
who really believe in government, the government knows best. The government should control the money, because if government
Republicans.
controls the money, they control us.
Yes.
And so the resistance in this administration is to letting go of power. And so we need to take over the Department of Treasury, the Federal Reserve, the SEC, the CFTC.
So they're going to take their half hour to campaign for Republicans, is what it sounds like.
And the FDIC, and which empowers people to continue to innovate. And the innovation absolutely must occur in this country. So that was why the Republican Party, at the direction of Donald Trump, put into the Republican platform that we're not having a CBDC. We're
dig it. I'm all for that.
Really smart thing. That individual wallets will be protected as an individual sovereign asset.
Yeah. Dig that. Just trying to get my vote.
Bitcoin mining and the Bitcoin universe needs to be centered in the United States of America.
That's wishful thinking.
To make sure that is a reality, we're on the Finance Committee. The one thing we need to make sure that does not happen is that the mining process takes a lot of energy. Under the Biden administration, they want to put on an excise tax of 30%.
Yeah.
That devastates. We know that a light touch is a whole lot less than 30%. Let's let the energy flow.
Yep.
And
mining is already so hard to be profitable right now anyway.
For the Tennessee Valley Authority, nuclear energy is a part of the solution going forward.
Yeah. The energy mix is really important. It's also important, Senator Scott, that we have that regulatory framework.
Yes.
So when you, and as Senator Scott said, he's also on the Finance Committee. So next year, we'll be crafting a new tax policy because the current tax policy expires. So we not only have the future chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, but a member of the all-important tax writing committee in the U.S. Senate with us today. And this is your first Bitcoin conference, right?
This is my first Bitcoin conference.
This has been a really good one as well. It's more professional than those that I've seen in the past.
I am not just stunned. I am incredibly excited that you got 20,000 mostly red-blooded Americans showing up, shouting out, and taking control of their financial futures. That is amazing. People have flown all across the world, though. I've met folks from all across the world here.
Exactly.
It's kind of fun.
And the people that are here from elsewhere in the world also value that individual sovereignty, that personal freedom, and having your own form of money that you choose, that you control, without somebody taking a slice out of the transaction every time it's moved from one holder to the next holder to the next full holder is important. So you look at, for example, El Salvador. There are a lot of people here in the United States working that send remittance monies to El Salvador. They can get out a smartphone, send it to their parents. In El Salvador, the parent doesn't even have to go to Western Union. And so they don't even have to put their health at risk by perhaps getting robbed en route. So this is freedom money all over the world.
100%. But what you said is so important. I don't want to miss that at all. That, in fact, this is the safest, securest way to transfer resources to your loved ones in other parts of the world, and the cheapest way to transfer those resources.
Absolutely. The banks call it friction, That's their way of saying, I get my piece of the pie.
Yeah.
You know, Senator Scott, you invented opportunity zones.
Yes.
So
I just want to throw out there that Kamala Harris was invited to speak at this Bitcoin conference here, and she did decline. I don't want it to seem like it's one party's side. She was invited. She declined.
Yes.
For creating opportunity zones to Bitcoin.
And one of the things I've said very often, Cynthia, Senator Lummis.
Cynthia's good.
We got about 10 minutes, and then Edward Snowden's going to come out and start speaking.
I think about is that the good Lord and the people of South Carolina have given me an opportunity to serve the American people. As a kid looking for opportunity, I think it's my responsibility to never forget where you're from.
Yeah.
And never forgetting where you're from means creating the kind of legislation and vehicles that bring opportunities everywhere. Opportunity Zones was designed with my why in mind. The stronger your why, the easier your what, the more clear your how to get things done. And Opportunity Zones is bringing back over $70 billion to fight poverty in the poorest areas without using a single federal dollar.
Yeah.
All private dollars, all private incentives, letting people make their own decisions. Bitcoin allows for people in the private sector, unhindered by government, to make their own decisions, to make investment decisions. You know, a few years ago, my nephew started educating me about Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And about 2 weeks from now, he passes his test to be a doctor.
Wow.
But what he's been telling me is, Uncle Timmy, diversify. It's called financial literacy. Even at 58 years old, I'm still becoming more financially literate.
It's a lot different too when Michael Saylor just came out and said you need to be a Bitcoin maxi and invest all your money in Bitcoin.
By bringing
leverage your
more
house.
resources, more tools to the poorest Americans. This Bitcoin movement says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so I see parallel tracks, and that's why I get really excited about what I get to do every single day. It's the fight for people who can't show up in Washington to fight for themselves. We work for people. We don't lead them first. We work for them first.
Yeah.
We're your servant, and I have to listen, and then I lead.
Well, I gotta say, I can't think of anyone better to lead the Senate Banking Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. Can we give a warm welcome to Senator Tim Scott?
Thank you.
So is that her announcement? Just that he's running for this position?
I'll close.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it, I guess.
I'll close. Thank you all very much. I should have turned it around. I had a 17-person standing ovation. I missed it. I'm sorry. Thank you, three right there. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you very much. Yes. So let me close with this. Since 2017, there's been one champion in the United States Senate who made the decision after attending a conference that she wanted to champion the cause of individual freedom, individual liberty, individual decision-making. And you can live or die by your own choices, but it is not her responsibility to make them for you. It's her responsibility to set you free. Her name is Cynthia Lummis.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so that was Cynthia Lummis and Tim Scott. Coming out next is going to be Edward Snowden.